Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Campbell. I'm a product marketer at VMware, Director of Enterprise Mobility. Don't be fooled by the marketing in my title. I'm actually a little bit technical. In fact, I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of different roles. In fact, my old friends think I've switched over to the dark side of marketing because I started off my career in tech support, product management, engineering. And I only mention that because as I go through this presentation, I want you guys to know that we we understand the pain that users go through, organizations, enterprises go through when they try to deliver security and yet try to make the user experience great. So again, that's me, Christopher Campbell. The first thing I'm actually going to start off with is, and I actually like to use this quote, and I think it's very apropos, very important for a lot of organizations today. Preparation is key. In fact, Abraham Lincoln was probably, a master of jack of all trades. This guy did a lot of different things. But one of the things that he was actually very well known for was how he used to prepare. And I mention this because if you think about mobile security today, are we truly prepared? Have we taken all the steps to ensure not only user security, device security, application security, threat security? There's so many different things from a security perspective that you now have to take into consideration. You really have to step back and make sure that you've looked at your organization and your ecosystem of applications and services to ensure that you're delivering complete mobile security to your users. So when I think of security, this is actually my vision of what I think the future of security is going to look like. So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the movie Minority Report. He's walking through the mall, and as he's walking through the mall, there are a lot of sensors going off. They're changing ads. They're basically giving him content and access to stuff based on who he is. But even though that was really cool, the one thing I want you to think about that scene in the movie is how frictionless it was, yet secure. And that's how security has to be. It has to be frictionless, yet it has to tie into a lot of different back-end databases, services to ensure that really deep level of security. So when you think of an organization, and this is actually very important, there's really three facets of an organization that you should think of when you think of security. The business itself. The business wants to ensure privacy, compliance, a set of security standards. That's all great. We all know that that has to be done. If that's not part of your key requirements, no project is going to get off the ground anyway. Often the forgotten part of security is the user experience. And I could tell you this, and you've seen this out in the industry. You could have the most secure product and deployment on the face of the planet, but if the users don't like using it, they are not going to use it. So you've literally wasted your money and your time. If you can't drive adoption, you've really failed before you even begin. And then last but not least, and this is actually more important for my IT guys than anyone else. Has anyone here ever been in IT? I'm actually talking about taking a support call. Let me see some hands of people who have taken support calls. Okay, well, you guys know my pain when I'm going to tell you about this. You remember that call you get every Friday evening. It never fails. Half an hour, 15 minutes before you leave out the office, and you get that call, and there's a guy on the phone, and he's saying, guess what? I can't connect to my app. And he said, oh, by the way, just so you know, I have the network guy on the phone. I have the app guy on the phone. I have the server vert guy on the phone. I have the identity guy on the phone. And everybody's pointing fingers at each other saying, look, it's their fault. And the reason why I mention this is for IT, you want to have a solution that's not only integrated with the products that you have within your organization, but also with your ecosystem of partners. And in this case, security partners like Palo Alto Networks, to make sure that you can troubleshoot it, deploy it seamlessly, and all the different integration points that you need to get to if you need to solve a problem with that solution. So before I do that, though, I want to take a step back, and I want you to think about the evolution of mobile security and how complex it's gotten. Just probably, 6 years back, if you told anyone about mobile security, they're going to tell you straight MDM. That's all it was. Nobody was doing anything much more than that. Fast forward 3 years later, and then that became EMM, where now you're doing device management, application management, content management, and now it's even gotten more complex. You now have to add layers of network security to it. You have to add threat management, identity management, and who knows where it's going to be in the next few years. The one thing that that is pretty standard about security, it's going to change. It's going to change, and it's even going to get more complex. And there's a reason for it. One, the sophistication of threat attacks it has changed. No longer are the days where you're actually sitting in an office with your PC and you have a hardwire connection to the network. I don't have to tell you guys, everyone knows the consumerization of IT, everyone has a mobile device now. But more importantly, for organizations to be productive, you and everyone migrated all those business workflows that you had inside the office to those mobile devices. Yes, it's made you more productive, but now we've seen a lot of players out there who realize that this is the way that we can get data now. Instead of trying to hack directly into your organization, maybe I just hack a device or create some ransomware, so forth. So you've seen the level of sophistication of attacks really on the rise. Before, it was just a few folks who were looking for a little notoriety, then groups doing it for profit. Now we even see nation states doing it. I don't have to tell you, but once your workflow has gone mobile, this is going to happen. In fact, if you look at some of the largest security breaches that probably happened within the last 5 to 6 years, the one thing that was evident is that it wasn't the fact that they got inside the organization, it's what they did after they got inside the organization. And that is why you actually have to have all these different layers of security, but it also has to be very seamless. So some of the things that you should keep in the back of your mind if you actually have a security breach. And what I find amazing is when I speak to a lot of organizations, there are some of them who haven't really thought out some of the things, the ramifications of what will happen if they actually have a security breach. And here's just a couple of the things. It's much more complex than this, but yes, you're going to have some bad publicity, but it could be worse than that. You can lose some business partners. You may be unable to attract new customers. You may lose some customers. But also, your business operations are going to get disrupted. You may have some financial loss. You may open yourself up to litigation, and it's going to increase. And this is, of course, what every executive don't want to hear. It's going to increase your capital and your operating expenditures. And so there's a lot of ramifications if you do incur a security breach. So here are a couple questions that everyone should probably, if you're a security guy or an IT guy, that you should think about every day when it comes to security. One, especially for mobility, how much access do mobile users have to your critical internal resources? And now I'm not only talking about mobility management. That's one thing. Everything is, of course, being managed on the endpoint, the application, so forth. But what happens if that gets compromised and someone gets access to the resources inside your data center? So how much access does that mobile user have to your critical internal resources? Next, do you have the right technologies in place to prevent breaches from mobile devices? And this thought process have to be very different from the traditional one. You've seen viruses now such as stage fright and Ace Deceiver and some of those out there. Those malware work differently than the traditional one that you would typically see on a desktop. And then, last but not least, in the event of a breach, how do you minimize the damage to your business and your customers? And here is where I'm going to go into some of the things that we've done as an organization to address that. So to me, there's some really 5 critical elements to EMM cybersecurity. It's really more than that, but I'm just going to touch on these 5 today. And one, you want to have end-to-end security from the device, but also into the data center. So you want to complete that security spectrum all the way inside the data center. One of the things you have to do if it's going to be effective is you're going to have to eliminate any hurdles for BYOD or digital workspace deployment. So if you think about security and how users are going to access, it really has to be seamless. Again, very frictionless. You're going to have to be able to tie threat security to some of your EMM policies. And that is probably one of the unique things that not a lot of organizations are doing, but one of the things that both VMware and Palo Alto Networks are doing really good together. Taking all the knowledge that Palo Alto has developed over the years, and then how do you tie and integrate that to a mobility policy that can execute based on threat detection? And then how do you limit that footprint in case of a security breach? If if a breach does happen, is that application that is running on the data center side for that mobile app now have access to all the other resources in the data center? Or is it going to be sandboxed and limited to its specific set of resources or only what the user has access to? And then last but not least, and this is more on the IT side of the fence, is you're going to have to be able to, with whatever solution you're using, accelerate mobile app test and deployment. Because if it doesn't allow you to do that, then you may spend months getting nowhere, trying to implement security, especially for mobility deployments. So when you think of the modern mobile security requirements, I like to break them down into 4 different facets that you have to try to address. One is user security. Next, enterprise mobility management, all the MDM, app management, content management stuff. Next one is networking, and then the last one is cyber threats. So how do you secure that digital workspace? And here's the thing that VMware has spent the last few years really working very hard at. How do you drive consumer simplicity with enterprise security? And what we did was we took all of the technologies that we had and started putting them together. In fact, I'm sure a lot of you are VMware customers, and if you probably know, we had a lot of different solutions working differently. We had Identity Manager over here, we had VMware Airwatch over here, we had Horizon over here, we had App Volumes over here, but those weren't tied together. Everything was using a different client, a different way to access those resources. And that's one of the things that we've really simplified now. A way that you can get to any device, the way that you could utilize any device to get to any application. So how have we done this? We have a new product now. It's called VMware Workspace One. And what we're doing is we're taking user security and we're tying that access to not only desktop, mobile applications, but also to identity management, and then of course running on the infrastructure. So there's 5 key features of this solution. One, the ability that you're going to have the ability to choose your own device. It's going to be self-service access, very easy to use. You're going to have all the productivity applications that a user needs. You're going to have the ability to do conditional access. And this is actually very important, and I'm actually going to spend some time on this as I go through this presentation. And what conditional access is in a nutshell, is how do you limit access to resources based on the knowledge that you're taking from Palo Alto Networks or from the device. And that is really key, because what you can now do is determine based on a user location, a user preference, or threat data that Palo Alto is providing, that I want to tie that into being able to limit not only this user, but now any user that tries to use that application now connecting from this location, deny them access. And then, of course, you want to make sure that your solution is scalable and you can automate it, so forth. And, you really shouldn't take that for granted. In fact, one of the things I learned in IT a long time ago is it's really nice to have cool bells and whistles, but if the thing doesn't scale, it will fail. So, if you don't have a solution that is future-proof and can grow with your organization, you're really setting yourself up for failure. So this is how Workspace One breaks down. I'll just go over this quickly and then start to dig into some of the features and functionality. So we have this new Workspace One application. We also have Identity Manager, Airwatch, Horizon. What's not listed here is app volumes. We've integrated all that, and we're delivering all these features that you would now get separately in one product. Whether it's everything from identity management to the MDM policy engine to delivering virtual apps and desktops to one consistent user experience, all into one seamless, easy to use to consume product. So what is the Workspace One experience like? It doesn't matter whether you're using, any type of mobile device, whether it's from Windows to Android to iOS or a browser, you're going to get one seamless user experience. And the key to this is that one of the things you don't want to do as an IT person is have to teach your users how to get access to their applications. It has to be pretty much consumer simple. And if you think about the way you use mobile applications, from any app store, if an application becomes too difficult to use, too difficult to authenticate to, too difficult to log into, after a while you stop using it and you use another application that allows you to be more productive. So one of the things we've done is, whether it's from a browser or for a mobile device, a very seamless user experience. What's good about this also is that you don't have to use a mobile device if you want to get access to resources. So you can use a browser, but of course a browser may have security policies that gives you limited access to specific applications. So, it doesn't have to be a BYOD device or a corporate issued device. If someone needs access and based on their location, based on their credentials, they can get access to specific resources, but limited resources, through a browser. And that's good because as you think about adoption through your organization, you want to make it seamless for every user, but still secure for the IT organization. So the native Workspace One app comes with a ton of features, but one of them is biometric authentication, PIN codes, so forth. And of course, this is important because, as I alluded to with the Minority Report reference, access has to be frictionless. And that's one of the key things that you have to do when it comes to a mobility solution, built-in identity management. And I want to take a step back here and make sure you understand that identity management and single sign-on and password management are completely different things. Password management is not security. So if you see a lot of solutions out there that will capture your credentials and store them, that is not security. Identity management is a different layer of security, where you're taking one set of credentials and then based on that credentials, utilizing whether it's SAML, Kerberos authentication, so forth, you're leveraging that to give your users access to the applications. And then of course, that user leaves the organization, you could turn off access within your directory service and that's it. You're not having to worry about all the individual passwords that the users have for all the different types of applications that you may have been delivering to them. What's really cool is all the different type of applications we can deliver. And of course, we're doing the standard like everybody else, mobile, SaaS apps. But one of the interesting things we're doing now is Windows applications. And I'm talking even native applications that we're able to deliver via even app volumes, or if you're using Windows 10, you can actually download those native applications on the device. legacy Windows applications, virtualized applications, and what's actually even really cool is you can actually deliver Citrix XenApp applications with Workspace One. Yes, you do need the receiver client, but you can aggregate even Citrix XenApp applications in your dashboard, so you have one dashboard for all the different types of applications you have within your organization. So that's, again, another version of what that unified app catalog looks like. You're able to actually, you have a launcher, which will show all your applications, and then you have a catalog where you can browse for and add the applications that you need. And if you think about it, one of the things you want to do is, you don't want to give them, list every application for them. We live in a subscriber world now. Users just want to pull the applications, whether it's in their launcher or pin it to their desktop, only the ones that they need. And this is one of the functionalities that you will get with this application. One of the things we've actually patented in this is what we call the Secure App Token System. And this is actually very unique only to VMware at this time. And one of the things that we've done is we've created a trust not only between your mobile device, your SaaS applications, your identity providers, so that once you authenticate once, we take that information and leverage it for all the different types of applications and authentications that you're going to use throughout your type of mobility deployment that you may have. And this is unique because one of the things you'll notice about mobility deployments is that not all of them are truly single sign-on. They may deliver you all the applications, but once you click on that, you may have to re-enter credentials, so forth. And that's one of the things we're doing, whether you're leveraging us as the identity provider or whether you're leveraging other identity providers within the industry. One of the cool things, and this is one of the things I mentioned earlier, is policy-based conditional access. And this is probably one of the key differentiators that our product offers. What it's going to allow you to do is basically take a look at the device posture and decide if you want to grant them access to resources. And then, of course, what type of resources that you want to grant them access to. So basically, how conditional access works is that, it's going to look at the device and it's going to figure out, whether the device is, all the cool MDM stuff, jailbroken, so forth, and then it's going to give you access. What's really cool is it may decide that, okay, you know what, the device may not be a secure device and have the latest updates and all this. So you know what, I'm just going to deprecate the list of applications that you have access to. Or it may decide that, you know what, I'm only going to give you access to these applications if you're on the internal corporate network. And once you go external, you're not going to have access to these applications. So you're going to get that adaptive, contextual type of access for your users. Just to touch on a couple things that you guys probably already know already. It's giving you all that great Airwatch functionality that already existed. The ability to manage all these different type of endpoints, all these different type of operating systems for all these different use cases. I just want to point out that not only we're doing the major, type of mobile OSs, but we're also doing rugged device, printers, peripherals, even vending machines, the Internet of Things. And that's key because if you think about managing mobility, you want to make sure that you have a solution that is going to manage a complete ecosystem of devices and Internet of Things out there. We also offer very flexible app management options. So whether you're going to use the standard set of enterprise applications that you want to use for mobility, or you want to use our SDK to wrap those applications, or use what we are referring to our app config community, which is almost like native containerization. How that works is that instead of wrapping the application, we're using the MDM APIs to actually manage the application for you. So a lot of different flexible options for that. We're delivering a set of productivity applications, Airwatch Content Locker, Boxer, Social Cast, and Browser. The typical EMM applications that you see. The cool thing is that we've integrated them to work with each other now. So you'll see a deeper level of integration. So whether you're in your email and you're pulling up a web link or getting data from Content Locker, we've created integration points, so it's a very seamless user experience for the user. In addition to this, and this is probably one of the coolest things we've actually done within the last year, we've done an integration with NSX. And if you guys aren't familiar with NSX, it's our software-defined networking product, which also integrates with Palo Alto Networks. So you can deploy it by itself, or you can integrate it with Palo Alto Networks to leverage additional security information and integrate that with your Airwatch deployment. Now, how cool this is if you typically thought about how mobile applications got access back into the data center, you either could use a device-level VPN, which is good, but it becomes a node on the network, and it gives you access to all the resources on the network. You can use an app-level VPN. That is still good. It does offer you a great level of security. However, that application, not the entire device, still has access to all the resources in the data center once it's connected. And this is important because if you think about how some of these malware now can compromise devices, once it gets access to a resource in the data center, it can then access other resources within the data center. So what NSX is actually doing, it allows you to sandbox an application to a specific set of internal resources. So you could say, application A can only speak to this server and no other server within the infrastructure. And you can tie that now to a mobility policy. So let's just say, and this is a great example. In fact, I'll give you what a workflow could look like. Palo Alto Network, and we have several solutions that we work with them, detects that there is a new threat on the network. It communicates that to NSX. NSX now communicates that to the mobile device. The mobile device security policy says, you know what? I'm going to lock this application, or maybe even lock this device, and make sure it's out of compliance and can't connect to the network. However, one of the great things that NSX and Palo Alto Networks is doing is it's allowing us to share that information across every device within the EMM ecosystem. And then it could say, any application that, application A that is trying to connect to that resources on any device, you know what? We're just going to be proactive. We're going to wipe that application off every device. And then we'll figure out, what to do later. So, very tight integration and granular security from not only the mobile device, but all the way inside the data center. Very simple to implement and integrate. Once you create your NSX security policies, you can actually tie them back to the mobile security policies back in Airwatch. We've actually created what we call an ecosystem of providers, and we refer to this as the Mobile Security Alliance, and these are the top security vendors, which Palo Alto Networks is actually the number one, the premier alliance partner there. And I'll touch a little bit later on all the different type of products they have that work with us. And the great thing about this is that it's secure, the top security providers, very simple to implement, and very scalable. So basically, in a nutshell, this is how it works. Once you create that, that integration, really and truly, all that has to happen is the Airwatch server, of course, has to communicate with the Palo Alto network server. We can automatically push down any application. In fact, I heard this question in the last session. We can automatically push down any application to the device. So let's just say, you want to deploy Global Protect application to your mobile devices. Once you tie that integration in between Airwatch and Palo Alto Networks, you can deploy that application to all the devices, and it's automatically configured. The user experience never changes. They don't have to go into the application and configure it. We can send that configuration information in. Once that information, once we send on that application, we then tie all the Airwatch mobile security policies to all the Palo Alto security policies and profiles, so forth. Then Palo Alto, of course, would monitor seamlessly, and they do this at every different level. Whereas some vendors is only doing it for app or device or network, they have solutions that does it for either device, application, and network. So it's a very comprehensive set of solutions. And then once they detect a threat solution, then we can remediate the device. We, of course, have a complete ecosystem of applications that would work seamlessly in such a deployment. And we're also doing Windows automation. And the reason why I point this out separately is that if you think about Windows 10 now, or even some of the old Windows operating system, managing those devices is probably non-existent for some of the other EMM providers. This is one of the things that we offer. So if you have those older set of Windows devices or Windows 10 devices, you can manage those and deliver applications to them also with Workspace One. And then last but not least, virtualized desktop and applications. And we can deliver that seamlessly, and we can deliver it with, high graphics and make that mobile friendly for any user coming in from mobile devices. So now I'm going to touch on a little bit on, how we work together. How does VMware and Palo Alto Networks work together? So, I'll step back and, as I mentioned earlier, 3 things you always have to try to do. How can we address business requirements, user requirements, and IT requirements? And with that, we've integrated on a lot of levels with their different solutions. The 3 are Global Protect, at least from a mobility perspective. Global Protect, the next generation firewalls, and also Wildfire. So here's just to touch on a little bit of the integration. With Global Protect, app scanning, and we tie that actually into Airwatch Enterprise Mobility Management. So it doesn't matter whether you're using, cloud applications or corporate applications, that Global Protect application is going to not only create secure remote access to all those internal and external applications, but it's also going to extend a VPN tunnel to an optional gateway. And one of the key things about that is now that you are able to tie that to a mobility policy, you can actually execute a granular level of security based on those mobility policies that you have on the device. In addition to that, some of the things that you can do with the next generation firewall is actually segment some of that personal and business traffic. So one of the things you don't have to worry about from, especially from BYOD devices is, users flipping back and forth with going to, their personal applications and now their business applications. And their personal applications, may be accessing resources that they shouldn't access. And you're actually able to now basically segment that network traffic from your mobile device. With Wildfire, and this is their next generation firewall, and this is some of the stuff that I was talking about earlier. This can actually identify infected devices. And it's really taking all the threat intelligence that Palo Alto Networks has developed over the years and really tying that to mobile security policies. So, and this is always going to be the challenging thing about mobility. EMM providers like Airwatch are great at what we do. In fact, we're in the industry leader. We do device management, application management, content management well. But we're not the leaders in figuring out what the next security threat out there and how to detect it. So by tying this into your mobility deployment, you've basically simplified the way how you're going to do threat detection and made that very seamless. And then last but not least, with their next generation firewalls, this is going to deliver, a lot of rich networking functionality. Whether it's device posture, based on a HIP profile that is going to trigger restricted access. And, this is actually coming soon, not totally baked yet, but should be available, within the next quarter. So as you can see, we've done a tight integration with Palo Alto Networks on a lot of different levels. Not only, for threat management, but really integrating that into device, application, and network security. So who is this available for? What type of VMware customers can use it? So any VMware Airwatch or any VMware Workspace One customer can actually utilize this functionality. If you have any of those solutions, you can actually leverage that functionality right now. And, last but not least, I actually just, kind of wanted to leave you with a quote, from Terry Ramos, from Palo Alto Networks. And, this is probably one of my favorite quotes about the Mobile Security Alliance. One of the things that we think that, we've done well with Palo Alto Networks is really design a solution that can deliver both privacy and security, at an optimal level for any organization. So with that, I actually want to show you a little overview of what this looks like. There should be a little sound, but
connecting us with information and each other
what?
in ways.
I'll actually just start that
Workspace.
over.
It's a single environment for accessing any application or service across all our devices, wherever we happen to work. But the opportunities are even greater. The digital workspace is transforming entire industries, connecting us with information and each other in ways that were never before possible. Supporting new business initiatives, fostering new forms of interaction, streamlining operations, and finding new ways to collaborate on corporate-owned and personal devices, driving business forward. Consumer simple, enterprise secure. The digital workspace is here.
And with that, we're actually at the end of the presentation. We do have a few minutes, so I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. Thank you.
Which color for the One Workspace? Sorry, is One Workspace a different product, or is it under the Airwatch color scheme?
Okay, very good question, and that's actually probably one of the most important questions because we know that that has caused a lot of confusion. So if anyone is familiar with Airwatch, Airwatch is sold in 4 different bundles. It's sold in Airwatch Green, Airwatch Orange, Airwatch Blue, and Airwatch Yellow. And that may get tweaked a little bit in the future. And of course, it's sold user-based and device-based licensing. Workspace One now is pretty unique in the sense that it's a combination of all that Airwatch product, but also the VMware Identity Management product, the VMware Horizon product, and the App Volume product. That now is actually delivered in 3 different versions. So there's Workspace One Standard, Advanced, and Enterprise. Workspace One Standard is basically identity management with all of our productivity applications. So you're going to get all the identity management functionality that any typical IDP would deliver, and then you're going to get applications such as like Socialcast, Boxer, so forth. In the advanced bundle, we're going to actually we actually already added. The advanced bundle is going to have all the Airwatch functionality, all the identity management functionality, and all the productivity applications. And then in the last bundle, the enterprise bundle, then we're adding all the Horizon functionality along with app volumes.
Thank you.
When we talked about the MDA, the device enrollment or device posture, I didn't see Airwatch certificate as a device to say, yes, this is a managed device. And also, how does Airwatch certificate work with Global Protect?
A very good question. In fact, so I'll take a step back and explain this, how it used to work in the past for those of you that are not familiar with Airwatch. So if you're delivering any type of Airwatch management in the past, one of the things that you would have to do is the device would have to be managed. Would have to push down a certificate, the device would have a profile, so forth. Now, with the Workspace One app, that is changing. Not to say that doesn't happen anymore, but it depends on the level of access you're going to give to the user. So the cool thing with the Workspace One application is you can do different levels of things. You can do, say, identity management only. And if you're doing identity management only, we don't need to push down anything to the device to manage the device, so forth. Because with Identity Manager, we're using your credentials to determine who you are and then make decisions based on that, which is really going to be good if you want to deliver access to a broad set of users within your organizations, not just a subset of what you want to use for mobility. So if you think about identity management, probably the number one use case that you could probably address with it is if you're rolling out Office 365. You're rolling out Office 365, you may not necessarily want to manage the device. You may just want to give users access to everything. So that's one of the cool things the Workspace One client is doing. No certificate required, no management of the device, which is good because as you realize, sometimes at user adoption, the biggest pushback you get is, I don't want you managing my device. I don't want you seeing what's on my device. Now, this is the other cool thing we've actually done now with the Airwatch integration. With the Airwatch integration, yes, we push down a certificate, but one of the first things users see is they get the option to now choose the type of enrollment that they want. Do they want the device to be managed? Do they want to only get access to specific set of application, non-managed? And depending on what they choose, you basically put the power in their hands. If you don't want your device management, you know what? We're not going to install a profile, but just understand you're not going to get access to all the different sort of applications. And I could tell you something that I've seen from a lot of mobility deployments. They don't like us forcing it on them, but once you give them the choice, they always choose the device management for the most part anyway, because they want to be productive. In addition to that, the really good thing about the client is that it's very flexible. If you want to use it to get access to Horizon applications only, you can use it to get access to Horizon applications. If you want to use it for app volumes type deployments, you can. So you can mix and match the different type of applications. In fact, the roadmap for the Workspace One app is that eventually it will be the de facto EUC client. It will be one client for access to all the different type of EUC resources that you need access to.
Hi. A question for you. How does the use of Global Protect as your default VPN client or connectivity to your internal network, how does that interfere or go against the Airwatch's default use of the MAG or the Mail Access Gateway in the past?
Very good question. So To repeat that, how does Global Protect, would that interfere with some of the other network security functionality that Airwatch offers? Here's one of the things we truly believe at VMware. You should have choice. And that choice should be very flexible, especially if you want to future-proof your enterprise mobility deployment. Some of our customers only use the Mac, and what the mobile access gateway do is it just creates a tunnel from your device into the organization. Some of our more security-conscious customers may think that's not secure enough for me, so they may implement NSX, and NSX then may do data center security on the other side. And then some of our other customers want a different level of security that's going to now incorporate threat intelligence. And the great thing about solutions such as Global Protect is you can integrate it on many different levels. You can integrate it completely on the NSX side, or you can implement it on the mobility side, or you can implement it on both sides. So no, it doesn't step over each other. It's different levels and layers of security, and it complements each other. Well, in fact, Palo Alto Networks is, one of the few partners that we actually, resell their products for them. So, that's how important we think that integration is.
We have time for one more question.
Yeah, time for one more question. If not, thank you guys for attending the session. I will be at the booth. Feel free to stop by, and any questions I can help you with regards to Airwatch, NSX, VMware Workspace One, I'll be happy to do that. Thank you.